You know that the axis of the earth is an imaginary line that runs through the center of the earth. This axis is slightly tilted. The 2 points where the axis ends are called poles, North Pole and the South Pole. The equator is another imaginary line around the earth, halfway between the poles. It divides the earth into 2 halves, northern hemisphere and southern hemisphere. The earth has 2 types of movements. The movement of the earth on its axis is called rotation. The earth completes one rotation in about 24 hours. That makes a complete day. The rotation of the earth on its axis causes day and night. Half of the earth that faces the sun gets light from it has day, and the other half which faces away does not get light from the sun has night. Besides rotating on its axis, the earth revolves around the sun. This movement of the earth around the sun is called revolution. The earth moves continuously. It revolves around the sun in a fixed path called an orbit. One revolution is completed in about 365 and 1/4 days. This time period is called a solar year. Seasons of the earth. The earth orbits around the sun. So, the length and temperature of the days change. This causes the seasons. Spring, summer, autumn and winter are the 4 seasons. The axis of the earth is tilted at an angle. This is why when the northern hemisphere is away from the sun, the southern hemisphere is towards it. When the southern hemisphere is away from the sun, the northern hemisphere is towards it. So, the season in the northern hemisphere can never be the same as the season in the southern hemisphere. How are seasons formed? When North Pole is towards the sun, it is summer in the northern hemisphere. During this time, the South Pole is turned away from the sun and it is winter in the southern hemisphere. Look at the picture here. You can see when North Pole is towards the sun, it is summer in the northern hemisphere and winter in the southern hemisphere. When North Pole is turned away from the sun, it is winter in the northern hemisphere and summer in the southern hemisphere. Look at the picture. Here you can see when the North Pole is turned away from the sun, it is winter in the northern hemisphere and summer in the southern hemisphere. If the axis of the earth was not tilted, the distance of South Pole and North Pole from the Sun would have been the same, and there would be no change of seasons. So, the two factors which cause seasons are: first one, the tilted axis of the earth, and two, the revolution of the earth. Festivals and the heavenly bodies. Eid is marked with depending on the appearance of the moon. Holi marks the coming of spring. Pongal, Ugadi, Baishakhi and Bihu are linked to the seasons. Shanivar means the day of Shani or Saturn, and Somavar means the day of Som or moon. Children, with this the lesson is over. Learn and study very well.